I'm still, after all the fights you've had, in awe of the fact that you do what you do. It's mind-blowing to me.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard to get your beat, but it was a great experience. Like, I learned a lot in there. I can't really talk.
When this fight was first announced, you had said something to the effect of this would end Jake Paul's career. After what you saw tonight, do you think that Jake should continue to box, or what do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, no, I really take my hat off. So, I mean, we have to see if it is a broken jaw. Those injuries are very difficult to come back from. But as AJ said, look, that last shot would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights.
All right, so here's the situation that has the entire combat sports world absolutely buzzing right now. Jake Paul, the 28-year-old social media superstar turned professional boxer, has reportedly announced his retirement from boxing, and this is coming right after what can only be described as a devastating, career-altering sixth-round knockout loss to former heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua down in Miami. And we're not just talking about a regular knockout here, folks. This was brutal. Paul didn't just lose the fight, he left the ring with a double broken jaw that required immediate surgical intervention. Think about that for a second. The guy entered this bout as this massive crossover star, someone who had been building momentum and trying to cement his status as a legitimate force in professional boxing, not just some YouTube personality playing around in the ring. But then Joshua's absolutely devastating right hand came crashing down, ended the contest in spectacular fashion, and suddenly we're all sitting here asking some very serious questions about whether Jake Paul's boxing career is actually over for good. And get this detail that caught everyone's attention. Paul apparently won 2 rounds on one judge's scorecard before everything went sideways, which shows he was at least competitive before the knockout blow changed everything.
And then I got dropped. But yeah, I was doing good. I just think my cardio, just the mental pressure of the big guy and sparring the big people is different than the 10-ounce gloves. So I was feeling his power a lot more. But it was a great experience. Like, I learned a lot in there. I can't really talk.
Are you in pain?
Yeah, but it's not from like talking.
Talk to me about what your jaw feels like, because you got
it's like a baseball in there.
two plates.
It just feels like
4 titanium plates.
4 titanium plates. How many do you have?
Just 1.
8 screws. 8 screws.
Hold on, because this is where things get even more intense, and frankly, pretty concerning from a health perspective. There's this moment that's been circulating where you can hear someone saying something about a titanium rod in a hand, which just adds to the chaos of this whole situation. But here's what we know for sure, and it's pretty serious stuff. Jake Paul has allegedly indicated, according to multiple sources close to the situation, that he's absolutely exhausted and mentally drained from taking the kind of heavy punishment that comes with fighting at this level, and he's genuinely considering hanging up the gloves and walking away from boxing entirely. This decision apparently crystallized after that brutal knockout we just talked about, and I mean brutal in every sense of the word. The bout wasn't just a loss, it was a beating. Paul was knocked down multiple times throughout the fight, and each time he got up, you could see the toll it was taking on him. Then came the final knockout blow that left him with that double broken jaw, which required immediate surgery and has intensified all the speculation about whether he'll ever step back into a professional ring again. The kind of punishment he absorbed from one of boxing's most accomplished and powerful heavyweights, a guy like Anthony Joshua who has literally spent years at the top of the sport, has apparently made Paul seriously reconsider whether this is the path he wants to continue down. And honestly, can you blame him? There's even this clip floating around where someone says, "I am retiring from boxing," which has only fueled the fire of speculation even more.
I'm getting hit in the face every single day while I could be playing soccer in Saudi. I'm friends with the Saudis / football.
Back in the day?
I was on the A team in 7th grade. I have a really good kick. I can run fast, and I'll knock out everyone that with us.
Yeah.
Now someone, please give me $1 billion. And I'll prove this message. Which sounds absolutely wild, right? But let's talk about what the promoters and insiders are saying about all of this, because their reactions tell you just how serious this situation really is. Eddie Hearn, who's been involved in this fight from the promotional side and has never been shy about speaking his mind, didn't back away from his earlier prediction about what this fight could mean for Jake Paul's career, but you could tell after watching the fight actually happen that his tone shifted to something much more serious and reflective. When he was reflecting on his pre-fight remark, the one where he said this bout could legitimately end Jake Paul's boxing career. Hearn said that the outcome, as brutal as it was to watch, sadly proved his point exactly. He wasn't gloating about being right. He was genuinely concerned, explained in detail, that injuries like a broken jaw, especially a double break requiring surgical repair with plates and screws, aren't just physically painful in the immediate aftermath. They're mentally and physically incredibly difficult to recover from, particularly for a fighter who's still developing and trying to establish himself at the elite level of professional boxing. He noted that the recovery process isn't just about the bone healing. It's about all the time you have to spend away from sparring, which means your timing gets rusty, your reflexes slow down, and your rhythm in the ring deteriorates. Then there's the psychological component. The fear of re-injury that creeps into your mind every time you take a shot to the face, which can fundamentally and permanently alter a boxer's trajectory and willingness to engage in the pocket. While Hearn did acknowledge Jake's toughness and his genuine willingness to step up and compete against serious opposition, something a lot of critics said he'd never do, Hearn stressed that boxing is an absolutely ruthless sport that doesn't care about your social media following or your bank account. Moments like this knockout, these career-defining moments where you suffer serious injury, often force fighters to sit down and seriously reconsider whether the physical risk and long-term health consequences are truly worth whatever glory or money might come from continuing.
Look, that guy did great for someone who's been boxing for like less than a decade. He has had no real professional opponents other than Tommy Fury that were legitimate world-class boxers.
I don't even remember what happened in the Tommy.
He lost a close decision, but it was a good fight. It was a good fight, though. He's a good boxer. If he wasn't a YouTuber, people would be way more impressed with him.
Yeah.
The problem is he was like a famous kid, and then no one took him seriously.
Yeah.
But
and then he started too with like more spectacle-ish fights. People were like, "Oh, this is you." He fought, Nate Robinson, like a basketball player.
But the thing is, he knocked Nate Robinson
He knocked him the fuck out.
And it's the way he did it that I was trying to tell people. I'm like, no.
Joe Rogan, who's been commentating on combat sports for decades and has seen pretty much everything that can happen to a fighter, offered what might be the most serious and cautionary reaction of anyone, after Jake Paul was knocked out cold by Anthony Joshua and suffered that double broken jaw we keep talking about. Rogan, speaking on his podcast with that signature mix of genuine concern and blunt honesty, urged Paul to think long and seriously about the long-term consequences of continuing his boxing career at this level. And when Joe Rogan tells you to be careful about head trauma, you should probably listen, because this guy has watched countless fighters go through the meat grinder of combat sports. Rogan emphasized that the punishment Paul absorbed in that fight, especially those thunderous shots from a seasoned heavyweight like Anthony Joshua, who's been doing this at the world championship level for years, carries risks that go way beyond the immediate injury we can see, like the broken jaw. He was suggesting there's a price you pay neurologically and physically that accumulates over time and is simply not worth it for someone who has other options and opportunities in life. Rogan talked about the severe adverse effects that many fighters struggle with after their careers are over. Things like chronic traumatic encephalopathy, memory problems, mood disorders, all the stuff we're learning more about as the science of brain injuries advances. He described the specific knockout blow that Paul took from Joshua as carrying the force of, and I'm quoting here, like 10 punches all concentrated into one devastating impact, which is a terrifying way to think about it when you consider what that does to your brain slamming against your skull. Rogan highlighted how quickly serious damage can accumulate inside the ring, especially at heavyweight where the power is just on a completely different level than lighter weight classes. His message wasn't just about this one fight or this one injury. It was a broader warning that repeatedly taking punishment at this high level, especially from elite heavyweights, can have lasting and potentially permanent effects on your cognitive function and quality of life, and that Paul should very seriously consider whether continuing down this path is worth the risk when he has so many other avenues for success available to him.
That I'm a cokehead. My rebuttal to that was, I'll tell you what, you can test me randomly for the next 5 years if I can test you randomly for performance enhancing the next 2 years, and I never got a response on that.
This is why Jake Paul is on PEDs. Within this past year, Jake Paul has literally hit a second puberty and aged like 10 years. Furthermore, he has acne and his hairline is receding like crazy. And people like Jake Paul are going to the best skin doctors in the world and probably are taking hair loss products that aren't even approved for the rest of us. Now, I'm not saying that Jake Paul necessarily took a steroid to make him look bigger, but he's definitely taking something that allows him to recover faster. That way he's able to train more and get better at boxing quickly.
Now, here's something that sounds absolutely wild and has people scratching their heads, trying to figure out if it's serious or just Paul being provocative like he's always been. That was skillful, by the way, referring to something in the fight that caught attention. But check this out. Paul has also claimed, according to reports circulating online and through various secondhand sources, that he's considering going on a cycle of steroids as a way to silence the long-standing accusations that have been following him around, the claims that he's already been using performance-enhancing drugs throughout his boxing career. According to the online chatter and these secondhand reports we're seeing, Paul suggested that by actually showing people the visible difference between his natural physique and what he'd look like enhanced, that would somehow prove that his past physique and performances were achieved naturally without any chemical assistance. Critics are arguing that the claim sounds absolutely reckless and inflammatory, the kind of thing that could land him in serious trouble with boxing commissions and potentially open him up to legal issues. Meanwhile, his supporters believe Paul is simply pushing back in his own confrontational way against years and years of speculation, innuendo, and direct accusations about his body transformation and the power he was showing in his early boxing matches. Given that boxing has extremely strict anti-doping rules and protocols, and given the serious consequences tied to performance-enhancing drug use in the sport, including suspensions, fines, and having your results overturned, many observers remain deeply skeptical about whether Paul would actually follow through on this claim. Others are cautioning against taking the claim at face value at all, suggesting it might just be Paul stirring up controversy like he's built his entire career doing. Until Paul directly addresses the allegation on the record, sits down and explains exactly what he meant and whether he's serious, the statement remains completely unverified and just adds yet another layer of controversy and chaos to what's already been an incredibly turbulent moment in his boxing career. It makes it that I snore, which honestly doesn't even make sense, but somehow fits the confusion of this whole situation.
The people need to respect him. I don't say that only because I'm fight here in a company, but it's because Jake, the people need to respect Jake, you know? I mean, every single fight go inside the ring, everybody need respect.
Let's get into the actual mechanics of what happened in that ring, because the details are honestly pretty shocking when you hear them laid out. Anthony Joshua brutally broke Jake Paul's jaw during their heavyweight fight down in Miami, and we're talking about a specific moment, a specific punch that changed everything. It happened when Joshua's absolutely devastating right hand, the same weapon that's ended so many fights throughout his championship career, landed clean in the 6th round with the kind of precision and power that only elite heavyweights can generate. The punch forced an immediate knockdown, Paul crumpled to the canvas, and ultimately led to the knockout finish that ended the contest. But the damage from that Joshua punch went way beyond just the knockdown. The impact fractured Paul's jaw in 2 separate places, creating what doctors call a double break, which is a severe and extremely painful injury that was immediately evident to anyone watching after the fight ended. You could see something was seriously wrong with Paul's face. The injury was later confirmed by Paul's own social media post, where he actually showed the damage, the swelling, the misalignment, all of it visible and honestly difficult to look at. After the bout concluded and the medical team got a look at him, Paul was taken directly to a hospital in Miami, where surgeons performed what sounds like pretty extensive surgery to repair the double break. The procedure involved fitting 2 titanium plates, one on each side of his jaw to hold the broken bones in place while they heal, and here's the part that really drives home how serious this was. They had to remove several teeth as part of the surgical procedure. Multiple teeth gone because of the damage from that one punch. Paul posted an update from his hospital bed saying the surgery went smoothly according to the doctors and that he would be limited to a liquid diet for about a week minimum, possibly longer depending on how the healing process goes, while he recovers from having his jaw literally reconstructed with metal plates.
Don't ever
give a monkeys about what anyone says, because they sit at home, they're full of negativity. It's like the people that are negative towards someone like Jake Paul. Look at what he's done with his life. Do you know what I mean? So yes, it took AJ a couple of rounds to get hold of him, and then he knocked him spark out and broke his jaw. It was a frustrating 2-3 rounds maybe, because Jake was moving so much, holding, but did well, I thought. I mean, I was impressed with him. I mean, I was more impressed with his toughness, because I think that last shot would have knocked out most heavyweights. I mean, you've got to respect him, because he did what many people wouldn't do, which was get in the ring with him. And, you know, he didn't, I know he run and hold, but he also let his hands go at times. And he was in the firing line, and, you know, we got 6 good rounds in the end of actual work.
You see it in the end?
Yeah, I actually think it's a positive, because, you know, we could have gone in there and got it all over with 45 seconds. He's done an 8-week camp, and now he's done 6 rounds. He's got something to go back and work on with a team, and onwards and upwards for a big 2026.
Now, with all the speculation and conspiracy theories that always seem to follow Jake Paul's boxing matches, let's address the elephant in the room that people keep bringing up online. The brutal 6th round knockout of Jake Paul by Nathan Joshua made it crystal clear, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that the fight was absolutely real and definitely not fixed or scripted in any way. Despite what many critics and skeptics had been speculating about online before the fight even happened. Promoter Eddie Hearn, who's been in boxing long enough to know when something doesn't smell right, directly and forcefully refuted all the claims that the bout was staged or predetermined in any way. He stressed in multiple interviews after the fight that this was a fully sanctioned professional boxing contest with real stakes on the line, regulated by official boxing authorities who have strict rules about this kind of thing, and subject to legal betting markets around the world, which would make any scripted or predetermined outcome not just unethical, but literally illegal and completely implausible to pull off without dozens of people being in on the conspiracy. Think about the logistics of trying to fix a fight like this with so many regulatory bodies, cameras, officials, and betting markets involved. It just doesn't work. Hearn also pointed to what he called the most obvious evidence that this was completely real: the severity of Paul's double jaw fracture, which was a genuine injury requiring immediate surgical intervention with titanium plates and the removal of teeth. As Hearn put it bluntly, you simply don't fake that kind of injury in a real fight. And there's no way Paul would agree to have his jaw broken in 2 places and undergo surgery just to sell some conspiracy theory about the fight being fixed. The medical records, the surgery, the recovery time, all of it proves beyond any doubt that what we saw in that ring was 2 professional boxers competing at the highest level, and one of them suffered a devastating and very real knockout that ended his night and possibly his career.